College Station ISD students of theater and the arts, welcome to another interview with me, Mr. Rod. I'm here with my good friend, Brendan Kelso. Brendan is the author of the Playing with Play series and lots of wonderful works. He adapts the classics and Shakespeare and makes them fun for kids of all ages, really. And I had the honor of working with Brendan on several projects, with looking at his new texts that are coming out, and we did a little mini show this summer with Hamlet. So I'm super glad he's here to talk to us about adapting plays and about Shakespeare and just about him, because you guys want to know more about Brendan. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brendan Kelso. Brendan, hi.
Hi, how you doing, Roy?
We are great, Brendan. Again, thank you so much for coming out.
And thanks for having me.
One thing I got to say about you, Brendan, is you are so kind. One thing, when the pandemic hit and all the theater teachers were scrambling, you sent us all an email and you're like, guys, whatever you need, reach out to me. I'm here to help you. And so, like, I say this on behalf of myself and theater teachers all over the United States and the world. Like, thank you, because you are a great resource. And your texts are just wonderful. And we're going to talk about that today. But first, I want to dive into your theater journey. Tell us, Brendan, so you're an engineer by trade.
By degree. By
degree as well. Like, how do you get to theater and adapting the classics and Shakespeare?
Yeah, it's not exactly just off to the side. It's like a 180. So, I'm naturally a just extrovert. I'm social. I love doing theater in school, but a couple things. And one, I hated Shakespeare. I didn't understand the language. I have some dyslexia, so it just wasn't easy for me. But I love just getting on stage, getting in front of people. And so I did some theater in high school. And then roughly around my senior year, I did a monologue, a soliloquy, and it was a bottom speech. Me thought I was, me thought I had, and it was there, and I did pretty well on it. And so what happened was I just kind of liked it there, but then I went to school and to college, and I was good at math, good at chemistry, and so I just followed engineering. And then by the time my son was born, I'd done one or two plays, local theater, nothing big, but then I didn't like the job I was at. I left, and I said, I'll just hang out with my kid. And then one day I was fiddling with a Hamlet script, and my wife signed me up to teach some kids. And next thing you know, I'm teaching multiple classes, and theater groups are using my scripts, and I'm writing books.
So let's take a minute. And so Hamlet was the first text that you were like, oh.
It was fun.
What was
Kids died all over the stage.
So was that like when you kind of rediscovered Hamlet? Was that like the spark? You were like, everyone dies. This is great. Kids could have total fun with this.
Yeah, and I want to carefully. I didn't rediscover Hamlet. I discovered Hamlet. Guys, I had no idea what Hamlet was. I didn't, honestly. And I go into schools a lot, and whenever I ask, especially younger kids, you ever heard of Hamlet? Most of them are no. And I said, have you ever heard of Lion King? Yeah. I'm like, Hamlet. And it's amazing where it's used every day. I'm actually watching, it was funny, I'm watching, what's that one with Kiefer Sutherland? It's a series.
Oh, is it 24?
Designated Survivor.
Oh, yeah, yes, Designated Survivor,
Have you seen it?
No, I have not seen it.
Oh, well, it's funny because as I'm watching it, I'm suddenly going, oh, that's Macbeth. Because, I'm not kidding. Kiefer Sutherland is the king, and this one guy's going in to try to usurp the throne, him as president, and his wife is sitting there going, you're going to do this. Don't back out. And I'm like, that's Lady Macbeth. And the next thing you know, he goes and kills off his best friend in order to cover something of them all. That was Banquo. I'm like, this is Macbeth. I was like excited.
It's everywhere.
It was. You never know. It's used everywhere.
Right. Wasn't there a movie? Was it She's the Man? Was that 12th Night?
12th Night.
12th Night. Yeah. You get the song.
10 Things I Hate About You. I think that's Shrew.
Taming of the Shrew. That's right. So
Romeo and Juliet. I mean, who doesn't love West Side Story?
Right. I mean, it's everywhere, and I think I think bringing it to, starting with the kids and telling them, hey, look how cool this can be, getting them excited about Shakespeare. Can you actually talk to us? You've got a wonderful tool on your website, the Shakespeare Generator, Insult Generator. Talk to us about how you use that to get kids excited about Shakespeare.
So here's the best thing about the Shakespeare Insult Generator. You can generate like 30,000 different Shakespearean insults.
And I believe you did the math too.
Yeah. And what's so cool about it is you got to say it with a little bit of angst and throw a little Shakespearean language, but all the words are Shakespeare, so it's easy. You take one word from column A, B, and C, run them together, and just throw a little bit of anger in there, and you got a great insult. And what I do is I go into classes, and I will have kids practice different insults, and then I put them up, and they go one against one. One person insults, the next insults, and then one sits down, and the next one goes to the next round. And we keep doing that until we have an insult champion.
Oh, the ultimate.
And I usually give them the Yorick skull as the trophy.
I forgot my Yorick skull in my other classroom. Oh.
Yeah, this one glows in the dark too.
Oh, see, that one's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I worked with a group. And they. Oh, here we go.
Right,
yes.
Right. There we go.
That's awesome. I worked with a group, and they bought a skull that like lights up in all these colors. And I was like, ooh, that could be really fun for Yorick, a really cool hippie Yorick.
The coolest was I had a Hamlet once. He did Yorick, and he's like, he picked up the skull, he looked at it, he's like, yo, Rick, Rick, you're the best rapper I'd ever seen. And then he spun his head on the stage, and then he's like, go, yo, Rick, go, yo, Rick, go, yo, Rick. And it was like, I'm like, that's awesome, because he just had fun with it.
And I'm so glad you brought.
Honestly,
go ahead.
Never forgets. The kids never forget. The parents never forget.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because this is something that you even talked about before to teachers, is that as the students are working within your adaptations, if they find those moments, go with it. You encourage it. I think you even said on your website that you're just, what do you call yourself? You say you're the I can't remember the verbiage that you use, but you said
I'm kind of like I paint half the landscape,
right,
and then you guys paint the other half.
Right, like it's a team effort here. It's not, you are not so bound to your work like many playwrights are about, you do my work the way it's written, end of story. That you offer this creative freedom for schools, for students to explore, because at the end of the day, and I think you can agree with this too, is that our goal is, as educators and as you as a playwright, we want these kids to fall in love with this material. Yep. We want them to appreciate it. And there's no way they're going to appreciate it if they don't feel like they've got a creative foot in the door here. And that's what I think is wonderful about your work, is that the students really feel that they can have fun with it.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Shakespeare already has a stigma. Kids already don't like it. So if I'm going to force you to do something, what's the point of liking it? But if you have fun with it, then go with it. Have fun. Be creative. I mean, what was it? Sir Toby Belch is one of the great characters because he's always belching. And I had a kid once. He actually belched the alphabet on stage, and all the other characters are like, "You're gross," and he's like, I don't care.
It's the character,
and he just had fun with it. You should see. I'm just finishing. I'm going to launch Jekyll and Hyde here on Friday.
I read it. It's wonderful, by the way, for those watching this.
Thanks. But what I did is I've actually now weaved in a narrator because it allows everybody else to stay straight, and he's kind of, he's a comedic interlude. But what's one of the notes it says right after the cast is both Hyde and the narrator are specifically creative forces. So the narrator's job is to be annoying and insert himself where he doesn't belong. And if an actor's up there and he sees something, run with it. Hyde literally in the book, he says, I was created to be the evil side and I can do whatever I want. And so as an actor, you need to embellish that. I mean, if you decide to go into the crowd, into the audience and grab their popcorn and start eating it next to them and watching the show with them, you're Hyde. You can do it because you don't follow the rules, and that's the fun. It's like, let's have fun here, because if it's not fun, they're not going to want to come back. If it's not creative, we're not learning. And creativity is one of the key things that's going to help save our planet and our world, because only new ideas, creative ideas, are going to change the world. And we got to learn how to be creative. And drama and theater is the one of the fertile places to plant those seeds.
Well, it's fun. Like, one of the things that I learned from you was your style of auditioning kids for your shows, and I still do it to this day, where they have to do a death scene. They die on stage in the most melodramatic way possible. And it's funny that you say that these things that they remember, like, this is a moment in my class that my students remember. They leave my classroom going, guys, we died today in theater. Mom, I got to die today. And we laugh about this, but you're right. These are the moments that these kids are going to remember, and they're going to leave with a love and appreciation of these classic texts. And I tell them all the time, I go, guys, if you leave my class in the 6th grade with the basic understanding of Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet, when you get to high school and you have to read them again, you're going to be way up here on your knowledge and be able to show everyone, your Shakespearean flair, because you had that leg up on everyone else, because you got to have fun and play these roles. And even though you were goofing off, you were learning about these characters. And honestly, this goes with the time, the way Shakespeare wrote. It was comical. It was supposed to be goofy and funny and silly. Can you talk to us, Brendan, about your process of adapting? I think this is really interesting because you take, or you, as you put it, creatively editing.
Yes.
How do you, because what I love about your work is that you include a lot of the original text from the work. And as a theater teacher, I appreciate that, because you want the kids to hear, the meter of Shakespeare. You want them to hear the language of the Tom Sawyer, of Mark Twain's Tom Sawyer. You want them to be able to hear that. But you also weave it in a way, in plain English, that is it makes sense to kids and makes it fun for them. So can you talk about how if you find like a script that you want to adapt, what is your process? How do you get started?
My basic process is I'll read through whatever novel or play it is, and I just start. There's a couple things. I start highlighting lines that I find that are easy to understand, that I can weave in, and I think there could be something funny or interesting about it. One of the things I really liked about Jekyll and Hyde is the way he wrote a lot of the descriptions of Hyde was, maniacal and deceiving, and just the way he weaved his verbs together was actually pretty impressive, and it was fun to do. I'll also just research, what are all the famous quotes from whatever novel or play that is, and I'll make sure those are in there, because this is not the only Shakespeare or classic works you're ever going to read about this work. But what I want you to know is that, the Ides of March and Wherefore Art Thou Romeo, these phrases, in my mind's eye, these are phrases we hear all the time. You at least get a taste of it. And it's also done in a context that makes it easy to understand. And so when you see Shakespeare, you're like, this isn't bad. It's about erasing the stigma.
Yeah. And I love the process too. Like, you do that, and then you throw it out to readers. You have readers look at it when you're ready. And what do you do after you get that feedback from readers?
So those are beta groups. Those are beta readers, and I have about 20 or 30 of them. And when I send out about, let's say, 30 different ones to beta readers, I get probably about 15 to 20 back at any one time. And I literally go through each and every note. Some people are like, it was great, maybe tweak this. Some people literally print it out and they'll just edit different things. I don't look for grammar or punctuation. That stuff all gets cleaned up later, but I'm looking for story arc, story concepts, funny lines. Sometimes it might just be one thing in there, and it's funny. It's like even, I'm so fresh on Jekyll and Hyde, but there's one of the lines is, if you're Mr. Hyde, I shall be Mr. Seek. And it's a funny line, but it's actually a line from the text. And I had it highlighted in the book that I read, but I forgot to weave it in. And one of the beta readers came back and says, hey, there's this really cool line. I'm like, oh, I totally missed that one. And so, but he found that. And then different people just throw in different things, and a lot of stuff, honestly, I just kind of brush away, but there's pieces that I'm like, oh, I need this. And even the narrator that I weaved in there, that was actually done by a 16-year-old. He read it. He's really good at editing. He's like actually one of the best editors that I have in beta readers. And he wrote back, he's like, it would be really funny if you had an editor and he just kind of like tweaked some things. And I'm like, oh my God, that does play way better. And so I tweaked the entire play because of his feedback. And so I'm a firm believer. I don't care if you're old or young, you'll have ideas, and those ideas can be good.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's 16. So
that's amazing. I just find it amazing that you are able to, a lot of these like are tomes, of plays and books, and you whittle it down to 15, 20, 30-minute scripts. I mean, that is just, I mean, when you read, you said you look for those iconic lines, you look for things that the kids need to be able to say because they go with the script. So like, what is it? How do you take and really kind of get the essence of that show?
A few things, honestly. I'll watch movies about it. I will read Spark Notes and Cliff Notes, because typically movies and Cliff Notes, what they'll do is they'll just tell you the key points. I'm like, okay, so when I titrate this down and filter it, I need to be left with this essence. And so I have the concept there. I have the storyline. A great one is Three Musketeers. Dumas, the guy wrote forever. I mean, the book is insanely long. I mean, it's like 200,000 or 300,000 words. It's insane. Today it would have been 2 to 3 novels. But he has entire chapters on the servants of the Musketeers. And some of those chapters, he is, when you watch movies, read anything, those servants are never mentioned. There's only one that's mentioned. He's like the key one to D'Artagnan, but the other ones, they're never even mentioned. So it's like, well, this is superfluous. So you get rid of it. And it's learning all those different pieces. So I'm looking at it from multiple different angles to try to get the right essence. And then I limit myself. I have a 4,000 word cap that you cannot go over because that's a time limit. And so I make sure it stays under there. So what I do is I just write. And sometimes you'll come up with 6,000 or 7,000 words. And the hard part is now I got to trim 3,000 words.
Yeah.
And it takes a while.
I'm sure that's got to be painful sometimes. Like, oh, I don't want to lose this line.
This is my 28th book. I'm used to it by now. But it is. It's always still, because sometimes you write something, you're like, I like the way that sounded. You're on the cutting room floor. Right. I feel bad for it sometimes. I have a little, moment of silence.
Yes, that's this. That's funny that you said this is your 28th book, because that's what I was going to talk to you about next. So it's your 28th book, 28th script. Tell us about, for those who don't know about your scripts, what when you open up a Brendan Kelso Playing with Plays script, what can an educator and a student expect to see in it?
Fun, humor, a quick synopsis of the story, highlighted lines from the actual novel or the script. And so you always know if it came from the novel or from the play, it's highlighted in gray, so it's easy to see. I mentioned fun because
tell them how many versions of the script you have in most of your books.
Yeah. So each book has 3 versions, and there's a small, medium, and large. So if you have, it's very adjustable, very flexible for your group sizes. So if you have a few kids or a lot of kids, you can make it work. So if you have 7 kids, there's a play for you. If you have 17 kids, there's a play for you. And I tell you which ones you can double up and triple up on casting to make it easy for you. And then even on my website, I have a spreadsheet with all the plays, and it says how many lines each character has. So when you're casting, you can look at that and go, okay, so I'm going to double up this kid. Oh, now he's got 42 lines. Well, that might be too many. You can start strategically casting your play.
Oh, what a great tool. Yeah. What I love too about this, the way that you break it down, is that you've also done social distancing approved, because you just did what was it, the Odyssey?
No, Midsummer and Beowulf.
Right?
Those you can do Beowulf. I have a version that's just strictly social distancing. You can do Beowulf with 3 kids. You can do Midsummer with 4 kids. Those aren't in the typical books. You got to contact me direct for those scripts. But there's also a number of plays, and I think Macbeth, Two Gentlemen of Verona, Jekyll and Hyde will be one where you can do them with 5 kids. And so there's ways to do it so you can actually social distance and do it on stage.
That's awesome. Okay, quick questions. What is your favorite script to date?
Hamlet. I just love all the kids dying in the end. It's just nothing but bodies. King Lear's up there too, because one of my favorite parts of King Lear is Kent in the end. He comes out, he's like 3, 4, he's counting bodies.
The bodies.
And then every time someone dies, he's like 8. And then I think I'll go 2. And he dies, And it's funny. I don't mean to make, light of death in this, but in Shakespeare, people die. And so we have to kind of look at that, because in life, people die. And, I get this from teachers get scared to do tragedies. And I always tell them, you want to hook a kid? You hook them on tragedies, because they love to melodramatically die on stage.
Now, why did you, when you, and it's funny you talk about melodramatically dying, like why did you, when you started writing, think, I want to do these as melodramas. I want these to be melodramatic tragedies?
Because I'm an over-the-top kind of guy, and I wanted just to have fun with it. Mm-hmm. And for me, melodramas were fun.
Yeah.
If you take it serious and they're this age, they're not going to want to do it.
Right.
It's not as much fun. I can't tell you, every time I have a kid sign up for a class, I usually have them for 4 or 5 classes, because they have so much fun. They want to do the next play and the next play. And it's very common for me to see the same kid multiple times for different plays that I do. And so melodrama was just, for me, it was the one thing that fit. It also fit for me. If I'm writing, I have to be happy about what I'm doing. And if I'm not happy about it, then I'm not going to do it. And so that's the reason for it. What I've learned too is, like, as the kids get older, they know how to melodramatically do things.
Oh, of course.
Bigger.
Yes.
And they can get more facial expressions. They can die more melodramatically. So I've seen high schoolers, even though they just do my play as fun, but man, are they on the stage, and their presence are huge. And then when they do comedies too, a lot of that's the nuance of language to make the laugh. And they can really play those up well. And so it's just fun to watch the older kids do it as well.
Yeah. No, what I love about your scripts is and I've seen high school groups do, combinations. They'll do like a night of, 3 or 4 of your shows, and the students will direct them. I think they're great scripts. And, this is me talking as a former high school educator and as a intermediate school 5th and 6th grade educator. Like, the scripts really reach a pretty large audience. We did Hamlet for kindergartners, and they were on the floor dying laughing. They loved it. So I mean, what I cannot stress enough about your works is that, like, it's just the reach and how much it impacts a lot of different people, and it's just a testament to the work. I love it. I can't talk enough about it. Okay, favorite line.
Favorite line, nothing will come of nothing. And this is really a very serious line. It's from King Lear. But basically, you try nothing, nothing will ever change. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to try. So if you just sat there, what Wayne Gretzky said, he misses all the shots you don't take. It's the same thing. It's like, if you do nothing,
you get
that's
nothing.
what you're going to get.
Yep.
And so even though you'll fail, and keep in mind, theater and drama is a lot of failure, because that's what rehearsal is. We don't get our scripts and the first day we're on stage. We're not. We're learning lines. We're learning how to say lines. We're learning how to use our props appropriately, how to engage the audience, how to tease out the laughs. And what you do is you practice one way, you don't get the laugh. You practice this way, you don't get the laugh. You do it this way, I got the laugh. That's how I'm going to do it on stage. So, and this is the creative process. Creativity is failing. It's when you fail something, you got to try something new. Mm-hmm. So you got to tweak something. That's the creative process. And nobody ever learned by doing something right. They only learn by failing.
Yes.
And so as long as we can embrace that failing is okay, failing is part of learning, then it's good. Because unfortunately, kids, a lot of kids are brought up saying, oh, you can't fail, that's wrong, go to your room. It's like, no, what did you learn from it? Because we all fail. But if you don't learn something from it, that's the problem. And as educators, our job is just to ask the question, so what'd you learn? And let them come up with the answer. Don't tell them what they learned. Let them figure out what they learned. Help coach them to there. And you've seen me do this before, but it's like there's drama and there's theater. Theater is a show that an audience pays for. It's an actual product that I'm purchasing. Where drama is an educational process. It's a journey. So you're learning about language and story concepts, enunciation, how to project your voice, how to face the audience, how to use a prop effectively, how to just get in front of a crowd and talk. There's so many things you're learning, and that's the drama journey that's in education.
One thing that I love that you said that, because one thing that I always tell students is that, not every single one of you are going to continue on in this field. You're going to be famous actors. You're going to go and tour or do Broadway, but the skills that you gain from drama, the skills that you gain from what we do, make you a better human. They make you a better individual. You can present yourself better for interviews. You're able to get in front of a crowd and speak and present. These are all very basic skills that are needed in our society. And I tell them all the time, guys, the number one skill that employers are looking for are public speaking skills. And you get that confidence through what we do here. And if we can just give them the push they needed by having fun with these classics, then we've done our job. And I love that you said that, learn from your failures. Half the time in theater, when we create things from our failures. We go, oh my gosh, that was a great moment. Keep that in there. Like we talked about earlier with the crazy things that come up in rehearsal. So absolutely. I'm running out of time because in 3 minutes the bell's gonna ring and all the announcements about buses are gonna come on in a minute. But real fast, Brendan, what was your best directing moment? You've directed lots of your stuff in camps and stuff. What's your best directing moment?
Oh, I can't really just dive it into one. It's really a combination of just whenever any kid or group of kids, they come up with an idea and they run with it. I mean, I've told the story before about the pink flamingo and the kids in Jungle Book, and they're down at the Ravine, which is our local water park. So they made Shere Khan come out in a giant pink floaty, flamingo floaty. There's one where the girl did her pumpkin pants and they just fell off during rehearsal, and I thought she was mortified, but she's like, everyone laugh. Can I do it in the show? And it's just constantly things like that. It's just, they come up and, Frankenstein, and they do their giant pitchfork, and it's just they're being creative. And it's just, creativity is just a force in me that I love. And, and also just, hearing parents when they talk about just what it's done for their kid, whether that's emotional, from empathy to loving Shakespeare, and kids are now reporting on Shakespeare as their hero. So, there's so many different things.
Brendan, one last bit of advice that you can give our students about playwriting, about their creativity, just in general. What bit of advice can you give our students watching this?
Have fun. It's not work if you're having fun, and you're going to do a better job if you enjoy it and you're having fun with it. If you're doing something and you're not enjoying it, or you're being forced to do it, you're not going to do as good of a job. You're just not invested. So whatever it is you choose, have fun.
Brendan, thank you so much for taking time to talk. Oh, wait, Brendan, before you go, we're going to have our students do some Sofa Shakespeare. Brendan, if you could choose any of your works for the kids to do Sofa Shakespeare, which one do you think they should do?
Oh, any work? Oh, boy. It's got to be a tragedy. I'm going to say Hamlet. It's always my go-to for that.
All right, you heard it here. We're going to work on some Hamlet this week, ladies and gentlemen, straight from the author's mouth, or straight from the creatively edited author. Brendan Kelso, thanks so much for taking time to talk to all our students, and we'll hope to see you soon. Take care, buddy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Let me pause this.